Hey everybody, this is Brant with Nutrition First Coaching. And in today's video, we're gonna wrap up our series on the 10 most common myths and mistakes when it comes to building muscle. So we're gonna hit 7, 8, 9, and 10. We're gonna talk about how to build muscle and why, what exercises to do, the kind of crap you don't need, and all the stuff you see on social media. And then at the very end, we're gonna talk a little bit about what's coming up in our next series, because we've learned a lot about what not to do, but we want to start learning about the things we can do and the things we need to do in order to lose body fat and build muscle. Because we don't want to just lose weight, we want to gain muscle and lose body fat to improve our composition. So let's get into the videos here and let's wrap up this series. Hey, we're back in the garage for this video. Mom's in town and she told me I should smile more, so more smiling, being a little funnier, even though she said, I know you're trying to be serious because you're a man of science. I might add that part in. But anyway, let's finish this series off. We got 4 more myths, finishing out 7, 8, 9, and 10. And really this is all about what you need to do to build some muscle here and some of the myths behind how muscle gets built. So we're gonna really bust a few here that might break your heart, but unbeknownst to all the Instagram influencers, this is gonna bust those up. So let's look at number 1 here. You have to change up your exercises or you'll get stuck in a rut. Now this comes down to, okay, every 2 weeks or every month, I change up all my exercises. You see people like changing their routine all the time. Maybe they're even changing it on a daily basis. That doesn't really matter that much. What really matters is progressive overload. And if you're not getting that out of your exercises, then you're going to be missing out on what can effectively and efficiently build muscle the quickest. And if you're changing up these exercises too frequently, maybe you're not giving yourself time to learn the exercise to improve the neuromuscular connection and to be able to do them more effectively, which will essentially build muscle because you're going to recruit more fibers. Now they've done a bunch of studies on that, and they found that the more effective you are at an exercise, the more muscle fibers you recruit, the more muscle gets built. So you don't need to change them up that often. In all honesty, you just need to do them correctly. And going back to a couple videos ago, or even looking at what we talked about with muscle physiology, you can go learn about how muscle is produced and why we need full range of motion, why we need to perform exercises correctly, and how to get the most benefit out of the exercise you're doing. Number 8, you must use bands, machines, and other exercise tools. Now, of course, this is all marketing, because what do you really need? You need weight, you need resistance, and you can get that in the form of dumbbells. You can get that in the form of kettlebells, barbells, body weight. You can get a vest. You can do all this stuff with pretty minimal equipment. And if you're sticking to 4 general principal movement patterns, pushing, pulling, squatting, hinging, then you're gonna be fine. You're gonna build a bunch of muscle. And they have looked at this in numerous studies when it comes down to what you need to produce muscle, and that's progressive overload. And if you're doing compound movements like pushing, pulling, squatting, hinging, then you don't need bands, you don't need to balance on Bosu balls, you don't need to do crazy, you know what, in the gym. And we've all seen those people doing it. You know, there's a guy at our gym, I've never spoke a word to the guy, love him to death, but I see him do the craziest bullshit I've ever seen at the gym. And it's hard not to just laugh at him and just think, man, what are you doing? Like, are you just showing off for everybody, or trying to show off, thinking that hanging from a pull-up bar by your feet and doing a half a sit-up and punching and doing things on the treadmill, just waving your arms around, that any of that's helpful? But anyway, that goes back to purely just exercising for movement versus having a plan and a training structure. Number 9, you should spend most of your time on isolation exercises. This goes directly back to the one we just talked about, and we need compound movements. Compound movements drive multiple muscles, talking dozens of muscles, moving multiple joints, and they're going to produce not only the most effective hormone cascade, so what you need in essence from getting more hormones is that will help the tissue grow, and you need the progressive overload from those compound exercises. And if you get both of those together, then that's when you can really start to build some muscle. And the best and most effective way to build muscle is to recruit as many fibers as possible. So let's take something like a deadlift. When you do a deadlift, you're using all the muscles in your posterior chain, your hamstrings, your glutes, your calves, your quads, or excuse me, not your quads, your calves, your soleus muscles, muscles in your feet. There's a little bit of quad activation, but the biggest aspect of this is you're bracing the weight with your upper body. So you're having to isometrically use all your back muscles, your lats, your arms, your grip. Like think of the things that aren't being used in a deadlift. The lifts is way shorter than the things that are being used. Compare that to if you're trying to work your posterior chain and you're laying on your stomach and you're doing a hamstring curl on a machine. The only thing you're really working is your hamstrings, maybe a little bit of calf activation, but there's no need for stabilization. You're in a really goofy position. When have you ever laid on your stomach and had to powerfully curl your feet in to do anything functionally? You're not using anything in your upper body. You're not having to brace anything with your arms, your lats, your shoulders. Whereas in a deadlift, you probably do 15 or 20 deadlifts a day, not even thinking about it. And if you're doing that correctly, you're lifting with your legs, you're stabilizing your spine, you're using the muscles around your pelvis and your posterior chain, you're doing things safely, you're building movement patterns that are gonna keep you healthy for a lifetime. So compound movements are the goal. All the studies point to compound movements activating tremendous amounts of muscle fibers, and getting all those muscles activated causes that increase in the hormone cascade, muscle protein synthesis with the right nutrition that we've talked about. You're gonna grow muscle, you're gonna build muscle, you're gonna lose body fat, you're gonna look amazing. Number 10, you have to do cardio to get a great physique. Man, this thing started in the 80s and has been perpetuated along with the low-fat diets, and that's the only way to lose weight is low-fat, low-fat. If you think all you have to do is grind away on the treadmill or the elliptical or the Stairmaster or whatever for an hour or two every day and that you're gonna lose a bunch of weight, well, you're right. You are gonna lose a bunch of weight. You're not gonna lose body fat necessarily, but you're gonna lose a bunch of weight in the form of connective tissue, lean muscle, and you're probably gonna lose some of the stuff you want as you lose some overall body mass. But if you really wanna maintain muscle or build muscle and you want to lose body fat, so what we call recomposition, this is where you need some resistive exercise. So back to the last couple we just talked about. And you also need to do a little bit of cardiovascular work. Now, not so much that you start to kind of walk this knife's edge of like, if you do too much, you start to actually slow down muscle protein synthesis and the hormones necessary for it. And you also kind of just fatigue yourself to the point where it's hard to put out the effort on the weightlifting and resistive exercise training part. So you're going to deter how much muscle your body can put on. You know, you talk about the lean or the hard gainers, the lean people you see out there. I'm one of those people, and I know if I'm doing too much cardio, which is great for health benefits or performance, you know, it's got a lot of great things, but if we're talking strictly losing body fat, you have to do mostly weights, some cardio, and that's going to be the perfect combination. If I'm doing too much cardio, no matter how hard I'm lifting and how much I'm pushing it and dialing in my nutrition, it's pretty hard to gain muscle. And I noticed that I just kind of fluctuate in this like, yeah, it looks good and decent muscle, but I'm not really gaining or putting on muscle. So that's going to really bust through these last 4 myths and mistakes. The right amount of cardio, which isn't that much, with the right amount of resistance training. I'm going to say there's probably 70% of your time is spent on resistance training, 30% on cardiovascular work, and keep that pretty low intensity. You know, lots of walking, stationary bike stuff, getting your movement and your steps in, that non-exercise kind of cardiovascular work, walking the dog, and then really put the effort into resistance training and lifting weights. So now you have, between the last couple videos and articles and what we talked about today, you know how much protein you're supposed to eat, get to that 0.8 or so grams per pound of body weight. You know what you need to do in terms of the actual exercises, compound movements, progressive overload, not too much cardio. Then let's go back to basics. Like, you got to get the right amount of sleep. You got to be reducing your stress, and you're going to start to chisel the body you want. And in the next series, because we talked about all these myths and mistakes and things you don't want to do, let's start talking about the stuff you do want to do. And that is, well, it's pretty simple. There's about 3 things for losing weight, particularly losing body fat. And there's about 3 things for building muscle. And if you start implementing these things along with not making these mistakes, you're going to start chiseling out that physique you want. You're going to look good. You're going to progressively lose weight. And then it's all a mindset thing from there. It's all about doing the right stuff. And it's about doing it consistently and not getting in your own way and making it a lifestyle. All right, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe to us. Pass this on to somebody if you think they need to learn a little bit more about some of the mistakes they might be making in the gym. Let's try to spread the knowledge, spread the word, spread health, improve people's body composition. Let's change this thing from the ground up. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.